Hey, this is my first review of Final Fantasy VII, Dirge of Cerberus. In my opinion, best game of the series. I know that's not a popular opinion, but it's mine, so whatever. I know X-Play, they did something on it, and they gave it like 2 stars out of 5 or something. And, you know, on streams lately, Vice Elric and Moogle FTW have been, you know, talking about how it's like, oh, it was a terrible game, you shouldn't play it, it's didn't add anything to the series. Well, you know, when it's FF7, you don't necessarily need to add anything to it. I mean, the story was flawless as it was, you know, it was a masterpiece. It revolutionized the RPG genre overnight. But you know, you don't want any Shrek 2s, as I like to call them, you know, your shameless sequels that didn't need to exist. Dirge of Cerberus, you could say it's a shameless sequel. It's really just, you know, like riding off the coattails of FF7, but in my opinion, better game. You know, I might would have preferred it if they had left off the FF7 thing entirely and created new characters, because, you know, a guy with a dark past and a gun is not a hard thing to reproduce. But anyway, you know, the visuals, spectacular on every level, as good as those of 12. You know, on the same scale of giantness. But the difference is, in 12, you got these big rooms, but all you could see was the opposing walls. You know, you couldn't really go to any of those locations. Well, obviously you still can't in this one. But the difference is, you know, in Dirge of Cerberus, your enemies are coming from everywhere. They're not on the set path, you know, where your characters can hit in melee. I mean, they're coming out of the walls, some of them fly, you know, it's absurd. You gotta pay attention to your entire environment, and that makes a more worthwhile experience playing the game. The controls were beautiful. They were simple in their design, you know, but, you know, the melee system, you just kind of had your endless combo of doom, but that's okay, because in a shooter, you know, it's really just, you know, like in Halo, you just have your melee button, which is kind of what this was. They were so easy to maneuver, though. It was poetry, you know. That it's like what Resident Evil 4 should have been. Resident Evil 4, no, it was a aesthetically pleasing game. It would have been, you could have beaten it in an hour if it wasn't for the god-awful controls. That's the only difficulty in all of Resident Evil 4. I know a lot of people say, like, oh, you can't make the controls that good. Because, you know, it won't be as good of a game if it's not as difficult. And it's like, no, if you want to make it difficult, just make the enemies more difficult. You know, the good controls just make it more fun. You know, the enemies in this game, though, were impeccably, screw this word. They were very well designed. Every one of them is different. You got like 2 or 3, like the helicopter thing. That's a reoccurring boss. And it's similar, but there's still variations on those. Every one of them is a different gimmick to win. You gotta find out its weak point. Which, like, I know we've been talking lately on a lot of FFs. The first boss is kind of has a gimmick you have to learn in order to beat it. But then it drops it for the rest of the game, and that's true. But in this game, every one of them is different. Every boss is interesting, and that's awesome. You know, you can't just, you know, fight and level up until you got your super attack that's, you know, a one-hit kill and everything. Which, another thing, the leveling system of the idea that, you know, when you die, you can still get your experience, seeing as you're coming back anyway. I think you can convert it to money, or else you can add it to a pot for experience at the end of the level and level up. That's a really great idea. You know, you're going to be dying a lot in later levels, especially once you get to the boss fights. But the fact that, you know, those tries weren't entirely fruitless. You know, makes you want to keep going. The gun level system I loved. You know, that you only get 3 guns: Hydra, Griffin, and Cerberus, which is your sniper, machine gun, and pistol, respectively. And a lot of people say, "Oh, well, it didn't have enough guns." You know, I would like to have a little more variety. But you know, in most games, apart from explosives and snipers, you really only have to know that the next gun you pick up is better than the last gun. Which, you know, that's weak. I don't really care about, you know, you don't become attached to your guns. You know, I name them personally. You know, it's kind of weird, but you know, I do that. That's just me. Finally, the plot was pretty great. Hojo made an appearance, and his plot device for why he got to live, I didn't really agree with. I didn't like it that much. Well, you know, that's just me. But Vincent, I don't usually like Vincent. He's just your average emo, but when he's your main character, that's kind of a good thing. You want to develop your main character in a movie so people get attached to him, but in a game, when you're controlling his actions, you know, you want your peripheral characters to be more developed so you can get interested in them, but you kind of want to suspend your disbelief and pretend that for a moment you're the guy playing the game, like you're Vincent. And this accomplished that very well. It didn't impose itself on the plot a whole lot, like a lot of FF heroes do lately. But so that's pretty much my opinion on Dirge's Cerberus. 5 out of 5. I don't see any flaws in it. Final Fantasy, I'll always remain loyal to that series. Almost every one of them is a good game, with the exception of 8 and Crystal Chronicles, but it's personal. Vice Elric and Moogle FTW, if you want to respond, go ahead. I got more ammunition over here. I seem to be running out of time. But, so that's basically it. Oh, also, Vice Elric, he made a choice remark about Zidane the other day. I don't care if it's Zidane in Dissidia. I'm hooked on phonics. I know there's an E at the end. Alright, I understand. So, but I'm going to be making a review about that. But the next one up for my whole one fan, Hawaiian Otaku, I believe his name is. The next one up is going to be the first one of Ultima Tournament, so stay tuned for that. Alright, thanks.